I was going to say, whilst I'm talking, like, this is us and this is our group, so actually please just jump in or go, that doesn't make sense, or I really want to ask you about this, or I've really got this, and we'll try and answer as much as possible as we go through as well. So please don't kind of feel like you need to wait to the end or don't want to jump in, interrupt as you like. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So hello everyone, I'm Louise. If you're expecting me to tell you how to make your life minimalist and do rainbow coloured bookshelves, then I'm afraid Linda's booked the wrong lady. But what we are going to talk about is one of my favourite quotes, which I don't actually know who says it, it always just says anonymous, but this is kind of how I work with clients. So our outer world of form and experience is a reflection of your inner world of thoughts and feelings. And for any of you, you'll know that when you're stressed and there's a lot going on in your life, it tends to reflect in what's going on in your home or your car or your diary. You know, it's all part of it. It's all part of us, our lives, the complex web and the hats that we wear as mother, daughter, business owner, and everything else. So tonight, what I hope to do is to talk to you a little bit about how these two things are intertwined, and how they affect our well-being, because ultimately it's not about getting the perfectly organized home or show home. It's about finding a way of navigating through everything, finding the right balance for us and feeling less overwhelmed. So if that sounds good, then you're in the right place. If not, then I apologize. A little bit about me for those that don't know me. So I was a lifer. I worked for Lloyd's for 23 years. I joined when I was 16, a wee little nipper that thought everybody that had been in the bank for more than 10 years was really old, and how did you ever work for that amount of time? And then I spent 23 years working for them. In the latter part of my career was a lot around change and project management, but my mum will tell you that I've always been the organizer. I was that weird child that was emptying her kitchen cupboards, not because I was trying to play drums on the saucepans, but I was organising them for her, because she had the open the door, stick your hand in approach, and as long as you could shut the door somehow, then you know that was organised. So even as a child, I was started the decluttering and organising, much to my mum's disgust sometimes. But I left that corporate career in 2016. I literally hit burnout. So I was one of those busy people, always busy, one of those people that always took everything on because couldn't say no to anybody, and then hit a health crisis. And my health, basically, my body just said, you're not listening to me, and it gave up. So I left the corporate career, and I'd always for years talked about doing something like I do now, didn't really know it was a thing. And after being 23 years institutionalized working for a bank, I didn't think somebody like me could run their own business and actually do something that they loved. I had too much responsibility. And who was I to think that I could leave a corporate career and go off and follow something that I really wanted to do? So my health decided to show me another way. I went down a completely holistic route, and much to the doctor's surprise, got better. And then saw that as my sign that actually it's okay to follow your passion and go and do the thing that makes you happy. So that was 3 years ago, and business was born. And since then, I've helped hundreds of people gain some better balance in their life and some overwhelm. And this is part of why I do it. These two down here, they may drive me mad sometimes. My son is 12, so those of you that have got older children will feel my pain, that he's definitely going through that preteen kind of hormonal, everything's mummy's fault. There is just 3 of us, so that's been part of my challenge over the last few years, as well as recovering from health, going through divorce and moving 3 times in 2 years. So when I work with clients doing house moves, they kind of go, oh, you seem to know a lot about this. And it's like, yes, my personal experience has helped me prepare for helping you. So that's a little bit about me. I've been in the group since it started. I know Linda from before that. Our girls used to dance together. And then we worked together in Linda's home, which got a sneaky picture later, Linda, just to bring back some memories of that time. But anyway, so this is how I help people. So when people say to me, what does a professional organizer do? Like, what sort of thing do you actually do? These are some of the examples of people that I help. And yes, I have been in a house and several houses that look like the top left-hand corner. But what I would say is deceptive appearances of deceptive. So often you see these TV programs that portray people that their homes are out of control as lazy, or, you know, there's a lot of negative press about people, and actually there's always a reason. And a lot of the clients that I work with have had mental health challenges and you know, traumas in their life that have led to that top left-hand corner. But I also help people prepare their homes for sale, prepare them for the estate agent photos, unpack the other end so life can just get on. You'll know that if you've moved home, that it takes a long time for those boxes to get unpacked and life to feel back to normal. So that's one of the ways that I help people, is to try and get it back to normal and set up as quickly as possible. Working with people following bereavements, trying to go through their loved ones' belongings and giving that independent support in a world where most people don't have the support networks that we had 30, 40 years ago even. And a lot of people that I've worked with are trying to do these things alone. Paperwork, home offices, playrooms, but ultimately it's about helping people improve their wellness and success in their life, and whether that's just personal success of wanting to be happier and a happier home, to people that then go off and actually, once their home supports them, they can go off and build their business bigger, or go and retrain and follow their passion the same way that I did, because they don't have the stress of their home and their life being completely disorganized. So it's really difficult to sum up, but basically I work with people often that are in the state of overwhelm, often been through some challenging times in their life and need somebody to help bring them back and help put all the puzzle pieces back together to find their way through. So I absolutely love it. For me, you know, every day is completely different. I can be working with any range of these people and any range of these situations, from crawling through a loft and trying to avoid the spiders and little mice that come to say hello occasionally, to, you know, knee deep in Lego and playrooms. So that's a little bit about how I help people. But why do it? Why bother? And for me, organising our lives and our homes is that lost piece of the well-being puzzle that doesn't really always get talked about. So we talk about, you know, Marie, nutrition and helping people from that side, people that are personal trainers, helping people get fit, all of these different aspects of our well-being, learning yoga, doing breathing, you know, breath work and things like that, that are going to help us stay calm and help deal with the stress. But let's talk about reducing the stress and the overwhelm in the first place. And for me, if I can help somebody feel truly at home in their home, that's my job done. You know, our home should be our safe place, the place to recharge from everything that's happening around us. For the mums amongst us, you'll remember the time when the children are little and you might sit on the driveway for 10, 15 minutes because you daren't turn the engine off because you know the children are going to wake up, or you've just got them to sleep and you don't move them out of the car. I've had clients that say that they feel like that about going into their home. They'll park up and need 10, 15 minutes to build the courage to go in because they know that the playroom disaster is waiting for them, or they've got to sort out the chaotic diary or the massive to-do list. And for me, I want to be able to help people to be able to go into their home, no matter what's going on, actually to have that safe place. And one of my colleagues actually did some MSc research. So this was a proper study for the people amongst you that are a little bit woo-woo like me. It had 1,111 people take part. So it's quite a nice number. It's quite in the kind of magical world. It's, you know, all the ones is quite a good number. So, and sorry, I missed this bit, but talk about should and perfection. So I've talked about this in the group before, and Linda's heard me bang on about this for years, but often when I first go into people's homes, they say, oh, but it should look like this, or I should be able to do this. Everybody else's house looks perfect. And for me, if I could get rid of those two words, people would just be a lot happier and we'd all focus on ourselves a little bit more. But the research found that clutter is subjective. So even when you looked at those pictures where I showed you the types of clients that I work with, Some people are absolutely horrified by the one in the top left-hand corner and go, oh my goodness, I could never ever live in that. That's absolutely awful. And other people are like, well, you know, yeah, it looks, you know, a bit out of control, but I'm sure you could easily sort that. So this is something that we as professional organisers know, because I'll get people that say to me, oh my God, my house must be the worst you've ever seen. You know, this playroom must be horrific. But actually it is just subjective. It's about finding the level that is comfortable for you. But feeling good about home clutter and the ability to create home. So in this research, when they talk home, they're talking about that psychological, that at-home feeling that I talked about, is a quarter of the differences in overall well-being. So when we're talking about nutrition and exercise, you know, let's think about actually how our home is supporting our well-being, or how it's not supporting it, which is often the case. It's almost like a forgotten thing that we just use it as a commodity and forget that our home should be there as this safe place, as this place to support us in whatever that we're doing in our life. And feeling good about that and the ability to create home explain 30% of the differences in accomplishment. So having and achieving meaningful goals. And as all of us as business owners, you know, if our home can support us, it can support us with our goals and the things that we're trying to achieve in our life as well. And that's a massive, you know, difference in that feeling of when you have got a home that is supporting you. And the all important positive emotions of joy and happiness, 23% of the differences. And if you've ever walked in and the children have crucified the playroom, or the living room is out of control, and Easter holidays is the perfect time for that, when the children decide to get everything out at once, you know, thinking about how that impacts you, you know, and this has a massive impact. You know, when I speak to clients and they start to tell me about their home, even if it's over Zoom, you see the shoulders tense up, you can hear the change of their voice, the impact that that's having, you know, when we're in a stressed state. Marie, you'll know all about this from a nutrition perspective. You know, when you're in a stress state, your digestion starts to turn off and your body goes into that fight and flight, and it affects all sorts of things. So actually, the more we can focus on getting our home to the level that we feel good about it, then this is where we're going to have these benefits of feeling more able to cope with life, more able to go out for our goals, but equally just feel happier. So, visual noise. It's basically any random stimulus. So in the same way that when we walk into a room and our husband's watching the football, the kids are playing with some nasty plastic toy that makes a really horrible beeping noise, you've maybe got music playing in another room, noise outside, you'll cover your ears and go, oh my goodness, I can't cope with this. But different people have different levels. The same with clutter and kind of our disorganized home. That visual noise and that clutter acts in the same way. So our brain still has to process it. It might be that you're getting frustrated with the fact that the children have left everything out, or thinking that you should really be able to organize this, or why don't you have time to do it, or why does it all fall onto you? And all of these things are having to be processed by your brain. So in the same way that if it was actual noise, this visual noise can have a massive impact on us as well. Just some of the key things of how this impacts on us is it stops us being able to concentrate as well. It slows our ability to learn. It makes it harder to communicate, and it makes us tired. Does that sound familiar, ladies? Is there anybody nodding their head there going, yeah, I feel like those things most of the time? I'm going to pop, I was actually, as I was thinking of today, and I'd already done the slides and then thought, oh, I'll just put it in the notes at the end. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of a lady called Dr. Cheryl Ziegler. She wrote a book called Mummy Burnout, which is really, really good. Recommend it maybe for the book club further down the line. But she did a TEDx talk, and there's video online. I'll pop the link in the chat later, but it's about 10 minutes. But she talks about why mums are miserable. And often, you know, a lot of the things that she's talking about are these sorts of impacts of the being too busy, putting ourselves last, trying to deal with everything and putting everything on our shoulders. So I recommend her to watch. And actually, she was one of these people that, like, halfway through that TEDx talk, she completely lost her train of thought and then just carried on. And I just thought, actually, I admire you even more, because you're not this type of perfect person that's perfectly polished and doing this presentation and kind of almost not emotionally involved in it. She was so passionate about it that she completely lost her train of thought and went, okay, I just need a moment and then I'm going to come back again and carry on. So I like people that accept that, you know, perfection is not true. But so yeah, so visual noise. So what does it actually look like? So Linda's disappeared because she knew that her picture was coming up. Linda's is on the right. This is when we first worked together. But just an example of the playroom. So, you know, visual noise is different for everybody. And that's, I think, you know, what we talk about is finding the right level for you. So the same as when you're listening to music, some people like the volume cranked up and like not to be able to hear anything else apart from the music. Some people like music in the background, and at different points and for different tasks, you'll have it at different volumes. And the same with our homes. Some rooms you'll maybe able to cope with a higher volume, in other areas maybe less. And I know Bethan, you mentioned, is she with us actually? I can't, I've my screen, yes you are. Mentioned in the poll comments about, you know, needing it to be quite simple and being quite, you know, easily stressed by clutter and, you know, trying to get things organized. And this is where, you know, for all of us, our volume levels are completely different, but it's about finding what volume level it needs to be for you. So for the lady on the left, this playroom, I walked in and thought, well, it's quite a nice playroom actually. It doesn't look too different to what mine would look at home. But for her, it was a complete 10. You know, she was like, it completely stresses me out. I don't like it. Everything in the room just stresses me out. It just seems cluttered. I can't cope with it. And what we did there was look at actually how to make it work better for her. So for her, it was, she had everything at her level and the kids couldn't access anything. So every time the children needed something, they had to ask her to get it for them. The two children would argue over who had been touching whose toys. So we got everything out and then basically created zones and categories to be able to, the children to be able to access everything that they were allowed safely to access, to make it easier for mum, so there weren't so many demands on mum, and to think about for her how to turn that volume down. So a lot for her was about having everything kind of put away, and she didn't want stuff out onto the floor, which was what was happening before. And then for the lovely Linda on the right, when we came in, I remember Linda saying to me, this is the room of doom. This is where I don't open this door because I absolutely hate it. And, you know, Linda has 3 magnificent children and lives, as we know, a very busy life, doing all sorts of wonderful things. So what we had to do there is to create zones for both the children, but for Linda and her husband as well. So again, it was about trying to get rid of the things that nobody actually needed anymore. And because the room had got so busy, there were things in there that nobody even knew that they were in there anymore, because you kind of almost get that clutter blindness that you don't even see kind of what's there anymore. And that's why when we're organizing a space, that actually we get everything out to start to look at what you've actually got in there. You know, how many of that specific thing do you have? How many do you actually need? And what feels comfortable for you? And for some people, it's like, I need all the surfaces to be clear. Other people are much more comfortable with having boxes and storage things kind of around the floor or scattered around the room. So it's really about finding the volume for you. And then an example of a home office. So the top picture the before, you might think, well, actually, that looks quite a nice home office. You know, it doesn't look very cluttered. But the lady that this office was for was a very creative person. She works as a kind of coach, but doing a lot of kind of spiritual work and very creative. And she said with lockdown that she'd felt like she was stuck. She felt like giving up on her business and said, I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but I need you to come in and have a look at my office because it's just not working. And one of the first things that we did when I went into her office is to move her desk around to face the door and the outside. Because, you know, for anybody facing a blank wall, or in this case, she was facing her kind of whiteboard with the forever list and things clipped on there that she wanted to keep because she might refer back to. She wasn't she was facing a wall. You know, if you want to be creative and have thoughts about how to grow your business, or, you know, to enjoy what you're doing, if you're facing a wall, it's not going to encourage you to be creative. So one of the first things we did with her is to move her desk around, to start to bring in, so you'll see on the left hand side of the after picture, the desk is actually one of those wonderful kind of stand-up riser desks. So she did a lot of her Zoom calls and things standing up. So we created a kind of backdrop that represented her and her business and how she works with clients, so that she didn't just have kind of a blank wall behind her, and, you know, lots of messy files or anything like that. Facing outside so that she could see the outside, bringing in nature into the room. So she had this plant elsewhere in her flat, but we brought it into the spare room, into the office, because she loves nature, she loves being outside. She had these plants growing out on her balcony, so actually to be able to see them and to see the birds landing in the pots and everything else. And then we did the kind of practical organizing of looking at the files and sort of organizing that. So, you know, as I said before, you might look at that before picture and think, well, actually, I'd be grateful if my office looked like that. But for her, it was completely stressing her out and almost getting her to the point where she just felt like giving up on her business because she didn't feel like she was doing the right thing anymore. And then we did the office, and within 2 weeks, she'd created a brand new online course that had been ruminating in her head for 2 years, but she had decided that she couldn't do it because it wasn't the right thing and nobody would sign up to it. She developed the course. Within about 2 weeks, she'd finished writing it, got it out there, and it was fully booked as soon as it came out. So this is what it's all about for me. It's about, you know, helping people support their well-being, getting you to think about, how is my home affecting it? When do I notice when I walk into a room that you know, my energy shifts and I feel more fed up, or that, you know, it could be the playroom or the children's bedrooms that affect your feeling of that everything is on top of you or everything's your responsibility, and how can you change that? And like I talked in some of the comments for the poll earlier in the week, you know, if you are living with other people, whether it's children, partners, husbands, whatever else, it is about teamwork. And often in family homes that I go into, it's about, how can we get everybody to help with this rather than it just falling onto one person's shoulders? So if you've got a pen and a piece of paper, because I don't want to just talk to you all evening because you'll be bored of my voice, I'm going to get you to draw a circle across the paper and divide it into like a pizza pie. So a bit like this. I was going to send this out and get you to print it out, but I thought actually it will make sure everybody stays awake if we just draw a circle and cut it into a pizza pie. You don't have to do the funny shape. That's part of my logo. So when I did this form, it had the Merkaba symbol in it. But basically you need a kind of a pizza sliced circle. And then I want you to write around the edges of your pizza slices the main rooms in your house. You give me a thumbs up or a wave once you've drawn your pizza. You can do this in your head if you haven't got pen and paper to hand. You can just think about this, because all I want you to do at this stage is start to think the things that I've been talking about, and maybe how maybe that's affecting you in your home. So we're going to write the main rooms in our home, and then without thinking about it and falling into that brain part of you, I want you to think about instant reaction of how you feel in those rooms, and not how they portray you or whether other people might think you know, they're messy, tidy, whatever. But 0 being, if I could shut that door and never go into there again, I would do so. 10 being, it's exactly how I want it to be and I feel amazing when I'm in that room. So don't overthink it. Don't start to judge yourself and say, oh, but I would say a 2, but I really shouldn't, because actually I'm grateful that I've got a home office, or anything like that. Think about your main rooms and then think about how you feel in that room. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so I can see you all for a minute. Really don't like Zoom with all the tiny little, I like to be able to see people. Give us a thumbs up or a wave when you're done. So were there any surprises? Were there any rooms that when you started to think them, or that you started to notice, actually that's a lot lower than what I thought it would be, or I would want that to be higher? What sort of things came up? Vicky, you're kind of going, oh God.
A lot of them were a lot lower than I wanted them to be.
And is there a reason? Like, what was the main thing?
But I feel like it depends what day you ask me on, because if I've had a day where I've had time to blitz 1 or 2 rooms, then those rooms would be up here. Like, but how it is at this minute, they're not.
Yeah. Anybody else want to share anything?
I put a smiley face on the bedroom because I just love my bed. It's my happy place. I'm tired all the time, so that has to be a happy place. Even if it was a tip, if I can get in the bed, it's all good. Yeah. But every other room is just like I actually drew, that emoji face that's like that. Every other room is, because it's so small. And I know if I asked my husband, he'd say exactly the same. We're just like a squash and a squeeze in this house.
Yeah.
So unless we put stuff on the ceiling or the walls, I don't see how. It's just, relentless, but.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I think, when you are in a small space, it is about having really focusing on what are the things that you are keeping in there. And are you keeping things because you think that you should, or that they might be useful? Or do you have things that really are truly useful, or that really make you feel good? And that's where it becomes even more important to be mindful of the things that maybe you're holding on to that you could perhaps let go. And then looking at storage as well. But, having moved as part of the divorce, moving from a bigger house to a smaller house, I hear your pain of going, oh my goodness, where's everything going to go? But it does, I think, make you evaluate the things that you really want, and actually then looking at how can you get clever with storage? Where are you not utilizing space to the best advantage, and things like that, Natalie? But
I think we need you here, because I honestly, everything in this house that can be a storage device is a storage device.
Yeah.
There's literally nothing else there must be. There's something we're missing, a fundamental thing probably, but it's just, and we've had sort outs and put stuff in the loft. We've charity shop loads of stuff, but it is just outgrowing the actual environment is the biggest thing. I mean, there's stuff we've put away and we're like, oh, we needed that, but it's boxed up. Let's just forget about it. It's a little bit, But
anyway. And I think, sometimes it is needing that independent perspective of, I've had fellow organisers go, when I moved in, I was like, I just can't get the space to work. And then we've done a Zoom and they've gone, why would you not do that? Or how would it look if you did that? And I'm going, why did I not think of that? Like, none of us have got all the answers. People say to me, your life, your house must be, meticulous and organised and never a mess. I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like, it's about allowing it to get into mess and chaos. And, I work, I run my business, and I'm on my own with 2 kids. So life is definitely not meticulous and, unchaotic, but it's about knowing how to make it work better for you. And as I'll talk about in a minute, the reset of being able to, so Vicky, where you were saying about if I can, get that room, like blitz it and get it back to how I like it, then it reduces that kind of impact and then increases your happiness in that room. So the reset is another thing that you'll hear me bang on, and Linda knows all about this, don't you, Linda? So is there anything anybody else wants to share from just doing that exercise and starting to think about, actually that surprised me that room was that low or that high?
I was surprised because, actually I wasn't surprised. I was pleasantly excited, because I have put so much work into my house since she first started working with me, and I don't have anything below a 7. And I think that's massive for me, actually. And a lot of it's like what you said, in that I have a fairly chaotic house with so many people in it, and you can't control everyone else's behaviors, but most things have a really logical place now. And as you said before about the children being able to put things back for themselves is massive. And weirdly enough, like we've organised, it's going to sound really anal, the pens, pencils and paintbrushes, and they've just all got a little pot. And I was literally just putting their labels on them.
I recognise those labels.
But like just little things like that. Like Arthur can read now, so he can get that right. And that is things that doesn't take, everything saves time, doesn't it, ultimately? So anyway, I was really excited by my high numbers.
Fabulous. And it is about, it's not about trying to get everything to a 10, because it's very unlikely that anybody would have everything to a 10, but it's about, if we go back to that picture, about having it more evenly distributed. So in the same way that some of you may have come across the similar thing called the wheel of life, so where you do, I think Jen's actually talked about that before in a different session where she used something similar, where you look at your relationships and finances and career and everything. It's about getting it more evenly distributed rather than your self-care and one particular room being incredibly low and everything else being magnificent, because that means that for some reason you're neglecting that area. So I'm going to share my screen again and say goodbye to all the big faces and go back to the little faces for a while. So please do shout, because I can't see you all the time. So but so you want ideally that to be more distributed. Why is it not right? So we've talked about a lot of this, and a lot of it will make sense based on what we have, but why bother getting organized? So we've talked about the visual noise, and it's about finding it to a volume that's comfortable for you, having that place to relax. So our well-being, that at-home feeling, just feeling happier. Like, who doesn't want to feel happier and less overwhelmed and less just as I said about Dr. Cheryl Ziegler, that mummy burnout and that feeling of, oh my goodness, like it's another day and I'm already exhausted and I've only just woken up. Less stress. So like Linda was just saying just a minute ago, if you can find things and things can be put away, it might seem small, but actually just that one thing on a really stressful day can make a difference. It's just one little thing that's not an extra stress or an extra thing to then have to do once the children are in bed or between work calls or whatever else. So it's all about trying to find little things in your home or your diary. We'll talk about time as well afterwards, but just to keep that kind of stress going down rather than adding to it. Save time, who isn't busy? Anybody on this call that has got loads and loads of time and doesn't know what to do with their time? No, can't see any hands. Who couldn't do with more time in their day? So giving you more time, helping, everybody in your home help with that, and saving money. So saving money on buying things that you've already got that you can't find and they're somewhere, but you just buy another one because you can't. Making more money. If you're happier in your home and you're more focused on where you want to go as a business owner, you're going to make more money because you're going to have more time and more headspace to focus on the things that really matter to you. You're going to be happier just in general, and that means better relationships and better family. So the bit you've all been waiting for, when's she going to stop talking and actually tell us how we can do some of this stuff or the things that actually help? So don't worry. Obviously this is being recorded, so you don't need to write all of these down. I'm happy to talk to anybody that wants to go into any of these in any more detail, but these are just some of the things that will help you focus on your home and to get your space working better for you, to have a vision for how you want your home to work for you and how you want to feel in it. So like I've been talking about with the visual noise and everything else, it's about how your home needs to work for you. You might have exactly the same size house as your neighbors and the same amount of people living in it, but how you use that house and how you feel in it will be very different. Organize it. So like with like is what all organizers talk about all the time, and people go, does it really make a difference? It absolutely does. If you need batteries and you know where to find them, you're not emptying out 3 different drawers in a cupboard trying to find them, getting stressed and then having to waste time afterwards putting everything away, still having not found the batteries, and then ending up buying more even though you've got some somewhere. So keeping like with like and giving items a home, the more you can do that, the more time you will save and the less stress that you will have. You want things that you use most often in the easiest access. So in the same way that if you've ever had a new kitchen fitted or spoken to a kitchen designer, when they design kitchens, they say at waist height should be the things that you use most often, at higher reach, the things that you only use occasionally, and lower down the kind of heavier, bulkier stuff so that you're not having to lift it down. It works the same way in whatever room that you're in, that you want the things, if you're on your desk in your home office, you want access to the things that you need most often. So it might be a folder with forms or things that you use with clients so that you can fill those out as you're doing it, or planning for calls, rather than, oh, I know I put them somewhere, they're over there, or they're underneath that, I need to move that box to get to them. So it's all about trying to make things as easy as possible for you and saving time. And we're talking about digital and physical. So in the same way that our homes are often a forgotten part of our well-being, digital clutter is often the thing that gets forgotten, and it's that kind of thing that nobody sees. So we often run around trying to organize the physical stuff in our home because we see it all the time, but the digital clutter is just as important and will have just as much impact on your time and your stress levels. So I would often say that actually trying to mirror any physical filing that you have in your digital world on your laptop. So if you've got client files or training files or personal development stuff, you mirror that on your laptop and your digital filing structure, so that when you're trying to find things, it's the same as in person. So not forgetting that digital, including things like your phone. When was the last time that you went through all the photos that are on your phone and cleared some of those out, or downloads that you've clicked on and things like that, so that actually when you're looking for something you can find them. And in the same way that if you clear some of that off your phone will probably work better. It works the same for you, that you'll feel clearer if you're clearing that clutter. But it's always about focusing on what it is that you actually want. So you'll notice when I spoke to Natalie, I said about looking at the things that you actually want in your life, rather than talking about the things that you have to get rid of. Because as soon as and this is a really good thing for when you're working with children, and I know we're going to do a little topic next Tuesday about getting the children involved with organising, but this works really well with children, of saying, what are the things that you want to keep? Because as soon as you tell a child or somebody that is more anxious or finds it difficult to let go of things, that what are you going to get rid of, they instantly go into, well, I don't want to get rid of anything, and that defense mechanism kicks in. If you can talk about, well, what is it that makes you feel really happy, or the things that you really like using, or what's your favorite toy, or which of these games are your favorite ones that you'd like to keep, then naturally the things that you want to let go of or declutter kind of come to as part of that process naturally, rather than saying to somebody or to yourself, I've got to get rid of half of this. And some of you may have watched Stacey Solomon's program where they go into an aircraft hangar and empty everybody's house out, and you'll always notice that that's the dramatic kind of snapshot photo of when they say you've got to get rid of half of your belongings. Everybody goes, oh my goodness. So that's why I always focus on what is it that you want to keep, and then as a natural process we look at what you need to then let go of. So Vicky, this one's for you, the importance of the reset. The ability to make it as simple as possible to reset it. So that whiz around, like you were saying earlier, about being able to just quickly go around and put it back to how you want it. This works whether it's the playroom, your bedroom, your desk. This is during lockdown when we were all working from home and homeschooling and everything else, that ability to switch off. So when we talk about boundaries, if you're working from home or running your own business, it's about being able to go, right, that's the end of my day, and now I'm going into family time rather than work time. So it can be as simple as actually closing your laptop down on your desk, or for, you know, playrooms, making sure that everything's got a place where it goes, and then at the end of the day when children are finished playing, it's like, right, let's put that all back, and everybody knows where it needs to go. But it's really important that you have that kind of reset moment, whether it's at the end of an activity or the end of the day, because that's all part of keeping the volume at a level that feels comfortable for you. Start small. So the amount of people, including friends of mine, that send me pictures going, I've just emptied my entire kitchen onto the floor and onto the dining table because today was going to be the day that I was going to do my kitchen, and I've got it all out, and now I feel completely overwhelmed, and we've gone out for lunch and I've just left it and I don't really know what to do with it. Or I've emptied my entire, you know, clothes onto the bed, and now we've got nowhere to sleep tonight because how am I on earth am I going to get this done today? Start small. Allow yourself to build your organising muscles in the same way that you wouldn't go and just decide to run a marathon tomorrow having never run before. Start with that shelf in the kitchen that things always fall off of, or that just every day when you're making your coffee and you're looking at it makes you stressed out, or the shelf in the playroom. But start somewhere. Make a small change. It will encourage you to do more of it. And this works really well when trying to work with children as well. If you say to them, today we're going to sort your bedroom, they'll probably burst into tears, complain, or if they're my 12-year-old, go, you just trying to ruin my life and you never want me to have any fun. But if you say to them, right, well, can you just sort that part of your bookshelf out and tell me which books you want to keep? And you're going to spend 10 minutes doing it, and then we're going to go out, or we're going to do this. Or for the 12-year-old, again, you can go on the Xbox because that's the solution to everything. Then they're more likely to do it and enjoy it rather than kind of, you know, complain all the way through it. And storage, look at what you can repurpose. So from an organising perspective, we always talk about declutter. So look at what you want to keep and naturally then get rid of the things that you don't need. Organize it. So that's the kind of categories, keeping like with like, where are things going to have a home, and then look at storage. Often people start the other way around. They see some lovely new storage item advertised on Facebook or on one of the, you know, programs like Stacey Solomon, and go, that's what I need. That's what's going to sort all my problems out. I need one of those, and start with the storage and then wonder why it doesn't actually work for them in their home. So we always talk about storage last, and look at what you've already got and how you can reuse it. So yes, the lovely iDesign plastic fridge storage containers look lovely if you've watched Home Edit on Netflix, but they're really expensive. Not everybody can afford to buy them. And you've probably got some Tupperware containers or other containers in your cupboard that you don't really use anymore. And therefore, could you reuse those rather than having to buy new? And the most important thing when you're looking at decluttering is accepting that your memories will always be with you. So by letting something go, and this is a big one for children, it doesn't mean that it's gone. You can still remember it. And if you talk about things that they used to have, or their favorite teddy bear that they don't have anymore, they can still remember it, but it doesn't need to be there. And soft toys are often a big sticking point with children, that mums will complain that, you know, we've got hundreds and hundreds of them and they won't let any of them go. So those are the kind of main generic things that will help you when sorting your space. As I said, it's always down to kind of individually, well, what is your specific challenge, whether it's because you don't have enough space or that you don't have enough time or whatever else. But these are the, you know, I could have done about 6 slides just with tips about how to sort your space, but these are some of the kind of key ones that will help you with getting your space better organized and helping you do all the things that we talked about before, improving your well-being and feeling less stressed. Any questions on that bit? I'm going to go on to time a little bit now, just to talk about sort of organising our time a bit better. But are there any questions around kind of the space side of things? I'll just come out so I could see you all. Everybody getting the urge to go and sort out a kitchen cupboard or tackle the kids' playroom. And
there's a few comments in the
oh, sorry, I'm rubbish at keeping an eye on chat when I'm talking. I'm away with the fairies.
Nothing you need to answer necessarily, but you might just want to have a glance, that's all.
Yeah, so Vicky, keeping it so that for when other people come around, don't worry about other people, because they're thinking that your house is immaculate, and oh my God, if she came round to my house, it's probably, you know, one of the mums that I worked with, so the one in the playroom that wasn't Linda's, and the before and after shots, when I walked in and she said, oh my God, this must be one of the worst playrooms that you've ever been in. And I was like, no. And she said, all my friends have said, if I need an organizer to come around and help me, there's no hope for them, because, you know, my house is, you know, the one that they all look at and go, I want my house to be like that. But her, as an example, she was staying up till 2 o'clock every morning to try and make her house look right, so that in case people came round, trying to do everything herself, because she felt that that was her responsibility as a mother and as a wife, that it should fall to her, and why should she ask the children or the husband to help, because that was her duty and her responsibility. So there's lots of reasons why all this stuff, you know, why we end up doing this. But honestly, the reality is, in the same way that when you open up to friends and go, oh my God, I've been feeling really low recently, they'll probably say the same. The same with our homes. Often people are just, they're all doing the same, going, oh my goodness, I've got to tidy around because people are coming around, but they're doing exactly the same when you go to theirs. So
yeah, I certainly don't stay up till 2 in the morning tidying.
I just couldn't.
Like 5 minutes before I've got a tutoring session, anything in the hallway where the parents might come into gets shoved at the top of the landing, not within sight.
So Bethan, you were saying, I thought my issue would be the clutter, and while it is, I think it's more that I find it all a bit uninspiring. So yeah, some people, you know, it is really difficult, and it is, you know, a lot of the people that I work with, when we talk about things like executive function, apologies if nobody knows what I'm talking about there, but you know, often a lot of my clients, they've got issues with that, or they've never been taught how to organize, so they find it really difficult to see that bigger picture. You know, the ability for me to be able to come in and give that independent view and help go, right, it is a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, but let's at least get that frame up, and if I can help you build the edges, you can probably start to do the other bits. And things like, you know, when you are trying to organize an area, doing small bursts, so doing the kind of, you know, 15 minutes, set a timer so that your brain is then kind of knows, I've only got to do this for 15 minutes. It's not about I have to do the whole kitchen, but I'm only working on this for 15 minutes. So you're instantly kind of calming that bit down of going, it's only for 15 minutes. And my solution to everything when you're doing something that you really don't want to have to do or you don't really enjoy is whack some music on, find the music that works for you, that helps motivate you or gives you something to sing along to, so you don't really realize what you're doing and that time passes a bit quicker. And those kind of things will help you by doing just small bursts, and rather than thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to do this whole room or this whole cupboard, this is going to take me hours, because that all adds to that feeling of I don't even want to do this, I don't enjoy doing it. So mind reading, sorry Bethan, I'm just going down from reading your messages. Yeah, I do get told sometimes that people feel like I'm in their head, and they hear me. Linda's one of these people that have gone, I had like you on my shoulder, and what would you say, and I could hear you telling me this. So yeah, think about those sorts of things. And equally things like give yourself a reward when you're doing this stuff, that if you really don't like, if you enjoy it then great, but actually if it's another thing to do or you don't really enjoy it, giving your brain something positive. So whether it's, well, I'm going to sort my desk out or the kids' playroom, and then I'm going to take the dog for a walk. And your brain then starts to recognize that when you're doing organizing or when you're sorting out your desk, that you get something nice at the end of it. So in the same way that we say to our children, if you do your homework, you can watch this on TV, or you can go and do this, or you can play on the iPad. we need to adopt that same philosophy for us of giving our brain that kind of limitation of I'm only doing this for 15 minutes, having some sort of stimulus that helps kind of boost your mood, but then giving yourself that kind of positive reinforcement at the end of it, of whether it's I'm going to have a cup of tea and biscuits, take the dog for a walk, I'm going to do this morning and then go and meet my friend for coffee, so that you're giving yourself that reward of a job well done. But then you start to learn that actually when you do that, your brain goes, oh, this is a good thing, because something good happens at the end of it, as well as the positive feeling that you will just get from your space being better organized. So, right, I'm conscious of time and that we'll all be falling asleep if I carry on talking too long this evening, including me, because, past about 10 o'clock, I start to wilt, and then my 12-year-old's going, Mummy, why do I have to go to bed at this time in the holidays? Because I want to go to sleep. And he'd just stay up all night on the Xbox if I let him. So I'm going to go back to my screen, and then we're going to talk a little bit about time. So time and space is kind of all interlinked for me. So when I go into a home, we start to look at how the rooms, how you feel in that room, what the challenges are. We look at how to organize the space, but equally how that's impacting on your time, how you're using your time is impacting on your space. So it's all interlinked, and it's all part of us, how we use our day. So if it will come back. So a generic calendar. So even just having like a piece of paper with the days of the week written on, and then starting to think about how do you use your week on a general basis. So that on a Monday, the children have after school dance, so that you need to get there. On a Tuesday is your yoga. You work maybe a couple of days a week, or those are your clients' days, and starting to map that out to understand where you're spending your time each week. And often for people, this can be quite revealing, especially mums. And if you're running your own business, you start to go, there's not really any blank time in there. So is it any wonder that I feel really stressed? So then we start to look at, well, what are the things that we can do to make that kind of week work better? So it could be things like, well, actually, if your children go to an after school club and they go with a friend, can you share lifts with the mums so that one week maybe one of you drops them off and the other one picks them up, so you get a little bit of time back in your diary? But by doing this kind of general calendar where you're looking at your week on a generic basis, you start to see where your busier times are, where your quieter times are. And then when we start to look at some of the other things that I'm going to talk about, you can go, right, well, actually, I need to shift that week, or I need to make that day a little bit easier. And those are the days maybe that you notice, like with the quote right at the beginning, you might notice that on the days that are your really crazy days, Tuesdays for me, where it's like both of them have different clubs in different places, finish about the same time, and it's like, oh my goodness, you need to try and do something to try and make that easier. And reviewing that each week and planning ahead. So you might have that generic calendar, but then on a weekly basis, Sunday evenings for me, I don't get that Sunday night dread that I used to when I worked for Lloyd's. It used to be kind of by about 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, I'd start to be thinking, oh God, it's Monday tomorrow, work again. Now Sunday evenings, I'm like, oh, what's coming up this week? Where am I going to be this week? What am I doing? But equally thinking about maybe where I need to tweak things, or just, look at childcare, or dare I say that asking for help. So as a recovering perfectionist and somebody that's not able to ask for help very easily, starting to do these things start to help you see where you maybe need to ask for help and say, can you help with lifts there, but I'll return the favor here, or things like that. So, and knowing your body clock. So when you're looking at planning your time, plan your diary around how your body clock works. So for some of us that are morning people, planning either the more challenging clients, if it's working with clients, or if you're trying to design a new course or something like that, plan that in when your energy levels are highest, that you've got the most time to focus on it, rather than trying to squeeze it in just before you're going on to the school run, or doing it when the children are in bed when you know that you're going to be tired. If you've got to do stuff at those times, then try and leave the stuff that is a bit more simple or admin type tasks rather than stuff that needs your brain. Whereas if you're a night owl, then you plan your day around that and kind of do it in reverse. And learn to say no. So again, this is, you know, something that led to partly leaving my corporate career, my health crisis, was I never said no to anybody because I was the ultimate people pleaser. If I said no, I'd be letting people down. And that's been part of my journey, to start to learn to say no and accept that actually sometimes you have to put yourself first. And this is something that, you know, I talk, especially with the women that I work with. I do work with men as well, but most of my clients are female, whether they're, you know, the head of the family or women that are living on their own. But learning to say no and putting yourself first, and remembering the old saying about the oxygen mask, because actually often what we need to tell ourselves is that looking after ourselves is more important, and actually not doing so is the selfish bit. Yeah, I literally had a client say to me yesterday, but I feel so selfish when I book in something for me because I really should be organising the house or sorting stuff for the kids that I still haven't done, and they still need new uniform and their trousers are a bit short, and like, how dare I go for a yoga class and clear my mind when I've got all that to do. But actually, the more you don't do that, the more likely you're going to start to feel completely overwhelmed and stressed. It affects your relationships, it affects everything that you're doing. So learning to say no. So when you are doing the things that are in your diary or the tasks that you've got to do, working in chunks. So up to 45 minutes is when you are most productive for the average person. So again, with all of these things, there's probably people sat there going, well, I couldn't work for 45 minutes because after about half an hour, my brain's kind of distracted and I can't concentrate for longer than that. But this is about, on average, most people, if you're working in 45-minute bursts, is when you're most productive. So that's when your brain is all fired up, that it can really concentrate, it will come up with the really good stuff. And then you take like at least a 5-minute break, and then you go back and do another chunk. And this can help when you're looking at planning your diary, to start to say, well, do you know what, in the morning I'm going to do a couple of chunks of work on my website, then in the afternoon I'm going to do my training course that I've been meaning to do. And you can start to break up your day. And in the same way that we were talking about with organising, you know, that positive reinforcement of, I'm going to work on this, and if it's something that you find challenging or difficult to do, give that positive reinforcement at the end of it of, then I'm going to have a 5-minute break. Or it could be, you know, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go and watch, for me, the home edit on Netflix. It's like a guilty pleasure. I don't really like it because I find it all a bit too excitable and loud, but I can't help but watch it. So, you know, it's like, oh, I'll just watch 10 minutes of it. And some of it, you know, there are practical tips in there which are good, but it's, for me, I enjoyed Stacey Solomon's program more than home edit. So those little things like that, your guilty pleasures, why not add those into your diary of going, do you know what, I'm going to allow myself that time, because I know that when the children come home, I'm not going to have time for me. So build those into your day and give those as your little breaks in between these kind of productive chunks. Distractions, distractions, distractions. Those lovely, you know, on our phone, beep, 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 I'm here, like the little children when you're trying to have a conversation with your friend that are pulling on your skirt or tapping you on the leg, trying to get your attention, or going, mummy, 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 and you're like, I'm just talking to somebody, just give me a moment, sweetheart, I'll be with you in a moment. Our social media notifications, our email notifications, all these things are just constantly distracting your brain and taking your energy and your focus away from what you're trying to get done. So if you're trying to be productive and make the most of the little time that you have in the day, what you want to do is to be focused purely on the task that you're doing. So a bit like when I talked about with the organising, setting a timer and going, do you know what, I'm just going to do this for 15 minutes. If you're working on whether it's your website or anything else that you need to do, turning off these distractions on the device that you're on, putting your phone on silent rather than hearing all the beeps coming through, and then kind of a bit like a, you know, a meerkat going, oh, well, I wonder what that one is. Oh no, that's fine, that doesn't need my attention. Because every time you're pulling yourself away from what you're doing, your brain then has to spend time to get back into that focus mode. And especially if you're doing something that is more involved or more creative, when you're coming out of that and go, oh God, no, that's school, like I still haven't sent that form in, or that's about, oh yeah, I need to take the children to this later. You're then coming back out of that productive zone and you have got to waste time getting back into it. So habit stacking. So this is all about adding something on to something you're already doing. So a really simple example is perhaps when you get up in the morning and you're making your cup of coffee and you're tired, you could build in at the same time that you get something ready. Like if you go out for the day to work or you're out with clients, that you pack your snack bag or pack some, you know, make a drink for later and start to pack that. Or when you're making your coffee and waiting for the kettle to boil, you do some breath work, or you do a, you know, mini kind of couple of minutes of just meditation or closing your eyes just to relax, and that you use that time. So then your brain, similar with the positive reinforcement, starts to learn that when I do this, I get this. And then you're adding things in. So it's not so much about multitasking and trying to add more and more in, but it's about building something in there that's kind of positive. So, and when you're changing a habit, it takes at least 21 days for it to bed in. So in the same way that when you go to the gym on the beginning of January, if you go to a gym all year round, you get really frustrated because everybody's in the gym for the first week of January because their New Year's resolution was to go to the gym and get fit. And then after about a week, it starts to tail off. And then by the end of January, you know, you're only with the people that really meant serious about their New Year's resolution. The same way that if you're trying to change any of your habits or introduce new habits, then you need to give them 21 days of consistency before you're going to notice that they're really bedded in. Give yourself a deadline. So I don't know about you, but a lot of people that I work with and friends will say, if it's something that they've got to do, or it's like they're doing it the night before that the form's got to be back with the school, or they've promised a client that they'll send something by this date, they find a way to do it, no matter how busy they are. But often the things that don't get done are the things that don't have a deadline or don't have a commitment to somebody else. So if it's something that you're doing for yourself, give yourself your own deadline. And obviously this needs to be flexible, like life happens and COVID happens and you suddenly have children home, we have homeschooling, all these sorts of wonderful things that like to keep us on our toes. And like Linda was talking about at the start of, okay, so got a sleepover tomorrow, like what am I doing? Right, okay, what's the change of plan? But the more you can give yourself deadlines for the things that you want or need to get done, the more likely you are to achieve them. Because by having that deadline, you're focusing on, I need to get that done. So, you know, when we do exams, you'll have people that study all the way through, and then you'll have the people that don't do any study until the night before. But that's because there's a deadline. So the more you can start to bring that in and start to plan ahead, going, well, actually, if I'm doing this training course, I want to do module 1 by the end of April, and give you that kind of deadline and set that goal for yourself will help you focus your time and plan your time, but equally give you that motivation to try and actually achieve that. So an ideas bank. So I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm in bed and I start to relax and my brain starts firing of ideas for blogs or posts, or remembering something that I talked to a client about, or things, you know, that I want to do for my website, or the course that one day I'm going to write, that if Linda remembers when we had Paris here, I was like, yes, by the end of 2021, I'm going to have written my online course. It didn't happen. It's kind of moved to the end of 2022 now, I think. But an ideas bank is the idea of having, like, it can be a notebook, a place on your phone or on your laptop, that when all these little nuggets come out, that you help get them out of your head and down onto either paper or onto an electronic device, so that you, in the same way that we talked about with organising, of giving things a home, you've got a place for all those content ideas or course ideas or ideas about the holiday that you want to go on, or the birthday party planning for the children. But they're all in one place, of all those things that are buzzing around your head and taking up time and energy. You get them out, put them into one place, and then you review that from time to time to see what you actually want to do with them. And then I'm going to finish with the 4 Ds. So all the things that are on your to-do list, apply one of these 4 things to it. So but in your head, actually on your to-do list, are you actually going to do it? Can you delegate it? So even with the organising, can you get the children to do part of the playroom with you or do a certain part? Can you delegate something that you've got by getting somebody like Liv, who we had on recently, to help you with your social media? Can you, delegate something else in some other way? So delete it. Like, do you really need to do it? Or is this something that you were going to do that isn't important now, or that you found yourself saying yes to and you really wanted to say no? So don't do it. Take it off your to-do list. Apologize if you need to and say, actually, I'm really not going to have time to do this. I'm really sorry. Or defer it. So again, we're setting these deadlines. When you're reviewing your to-do list and the things that are taking up your time, it might be that you need to say, the online course isn't going to happen this year, but I'm going to defer it. And actually next year, I'm going to put that on my goals for what I want to achieve next year. And the more you can use this as part of your review time of how you're using your time and everything, and look at, well, which of these things, and being kind to yourself and accepting that, you can't do it all, and why should you? And asking for help is okay. So any questions around sorting your time? Yeah, so this is just an example of the generic calendar. So you can get all of these online. There's loads of like free versions, and then do as you wish, like use colors. Some people want to write in every box, some people like to just block them out. But the more you can start to look at how you're using your time, and seeing it all on one page can be quite revealing. For me, I tend to use color. So then I have like one color for business, one color for family, and one color for my stuff. And that's when you start to see, okay, there's a lot of family and business or work stuff on there, and there's not very much me stuff. How can I build more of that in? I'm going to stop sharing. Any questions? Sorry. Right, I'm just seeing. So I'm going to stop talking because I'll just carry on, and we've got to do Linda's meditation and calming bit at the end as well, don't we? So we don't want to keep people too late, but hopefully that's given you some kind of practical tips. What I would say is, whether it's getting somebody to help you that's a friend, or having some sort of commitment device, from a accountability perspective of achieving your goals, you're 95% more likely to achieve a goal if you share it with somebody. So give yourself some sort of accountability. So whether it is just telling your best friend, this month I really want to tackle that, or having somebody, whether it's if it's a health thing or an organising thing or whatever, having somebody come in and actually help you do that and give you that accountability, you're 95% more likely to succeed a goal, actually, if you have an accountability built into it. Any other questions?
I've just been scribbling the whole time, so my head's now going, oh, I need to do this and I could do
Apologies.
that. We've pretty much, I read Marie Kondo a few years ago, and the one thing that there are loads of things that you can like or dislike about it, but the one thing I took away from it was that if I'd spent money on something, like I remember a kind of a vest top thing in my wardrobe, and I bought it, I think in a sale. It was probably like £5 or something, but I never worn it. It was in there with a tag on, and that's really unlike me. I know that's not everyone's, but it's really unlike me. And the Marie Kondo thing was, it cost you £5 to learn that is not your style.
Yeah.
And that kind of blew my brain, because I was like, I could not let that out of my wardrobe because I'd spent £5 on it, and I damn well had to use it.
Often thinking about, actually, that might have, even if it's a really expensive pair of shoes that you go, oh my God, they cost me a fortune. What is the cost to you now of keeping them? So that money's already gone and spent. Yes, you can maybe, if you really need to, you can probably recover some of the cost if you can resell them. But actually, what's the cost to you now of keeping them? of how you want to use your space.
That in your house, you know,
Yeah.
you're paying your mortgage to house this thing that you don't even like.
Yeah.
So that all went. So the clutter thing's fine for us, but I think it's combining it with the time factor. I have 2 part-time jobs which are really great and going really well, and a voluntary job that's going really well. My children are permanently home educated, have never been to school, so that is full on.
Massive.
And so it's just making sure that my time and therefore my spaces are really combined. I think they're reasonable, but it was interesting. My lowest room was a 2, which is the room we spend most time in. So I've been scribbling, going, why do I not like it? I'm kind of just racking my brain going, why don't I like it? Why doesn't it work?
And often the busiest room can have that impact, because if you think about it, you know, it's got the most traffic going through it, everybody's in it, it's a communal space as such. So then it's more important there to start looking at, well, is it because things overflow in that corner, and could we put some storage there that might help that? Or do these things really need to be in that room because it's so busy? Could we put some of that stuff in the spare room or the playroom, or, you know, out of that room, and therefore to then start to impact the score that way? So really what I would say is, with, you know, normally we'd spend a bit more time filling in that kind of chart, but equally allowing yourself to, you know, really get into how you feel. So often with clients, when we do that, you know, I'll have arrived and it's one of the first things that we do, and they go, well, you know, feeling a bit nervous about you being here, or I've got all these ideas of what I want to achieve today. And then I say to them, right, we're going to sit down, and if you feel comfortable, I'd like you to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. And they're like, well, aren't you coming here to help me kind of, you know, organize my house? And it's like, yeah, we'll get to that, but actually at first I want you to do is really just think about that this time is for you, that we're focusing on your challenges, and get in tune with how you feel in these spaces. So in that room in particular, what you might want to do is, when everybody else isn't around, go and just stand in that room and allow yourself to just, you know, relax and close your eyes or whatever, and be in that room, and you'll feel naturally where you're drawn to in that room of the things that are stressing you out. So really tune into, you know, your feelings, because the practical element, there's always something that can be done, you know, if it's lack of space or too much stuff or no storage or whatever else. But it's really allowing yourself to tune into how you feel and how it's affecting you, because then that's where you then find the best practical solution for you, rather than just, you know, the generic approach.
Yeah, that makes sense. I weirdly think that we've got too little stuff in it. That I never thought I'd say that anyway.
But if it is a communal room as well, you know, it's a bit like sorry, my brain's gone. I think it was Natalie that was saying earlier about her bedroom, you know, that actually having the things in there that are right for you and around you. But, you know, even if it's just, my bed just has to be made, I don't care if there's boxes all around me, but as long as I can get into my bed and it's comfortable, and the sheets, you know, I've got the things on there that are the nice fabric or whatever for me, or the nice cushions or whatever. It's about finding that. And actually sometimes in an effort to, you know, I think partly because of some of these TV programs that, you know, say, right, you know, to be organized, you've got to have nothing in your house. It's not true. But sometimes we go to that extreme, and then we end up with a room that almost feels cold and doesn't feel family and, you know, comfortable. So you want things around you that recharge you and make you feel good.
And I've been to Stacey Solomon's house, well, the previous one, and there were definitely clutter corners.
We've all got them, like we've all got those areas that stuff gathers. But yeah. Any other questions?
I thought it was interesting, the digital stuff, because I've got really fixated on physical stuff, but it wasn't until a couple of weeks ago I realised how disorganised my digital life is. So that's definitely something to think about. And actually I was encouraged to put on my emails to use folders, because I never do, and I never thought about it, which sounds really daft. I've never honestly thought about having folders in my inbox, and it's been life-changing. So now everything's a bit more, I mean, it's very much a work in progress, but now I can find things rather than always having to use a search mechanism. I always need someone to show me the way, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Amy,
anyway.
Yes, so something you said that really resonated was about the importance of the reset. So I think what happens in our house is it builds up and up and up, and then I suddenly I can feel the overwhelm rising, and then one day I was like, it's got to be sorted, and then it's like a mass clear up and tidy up. And I think actually try and keep on top of it. I find it really difficult getting the kids involved. Like, I know at school and nursery they'd have to tidy up after themselves, but at home they're just not interested. And I think if we could just do even 5 or 10 minutes each evening before bath time, or so, just to try and
and if you try and build it into your kind of routine, so even if you kind of say to the children, you know, they don't do it as they go along, because as you say, in nursery and preschools and, you know, in school, they do it as they go along. It's like, okay, children, we've finished doing that now we're going to go and have snacks, so let's all, you know, they put everything away, they clear their plates after lunch and things like that. So even if that doesn't happen, if you start to build it into like your bedtime wind down of, you know, actually, right, we're going to put all this away and then we're going to have a story, or then we're going to have a bath, and it's all that storytelling of, we're going to do this and then we're going to do that, and then when we do this we get this, or when we do this then we can then have a longer story or more time in the bath or things like that. So then they start to associate that as, well, we need to do this because then we'll have more time in the bath, or then we'll get more time with mummy for story time or things like that. So then that encourages them to build it in. But as I was saying earlier, with like building habits, that if they've got out the habit of doing that or never had that habit, you're going to need to be consistent for at least 21 days for them to get used to the fact that they need to do that. And often what happens is we kind of give up, going, well, I've asked them to try and do that, and they did it for a couple of days and then they stopped doing it, and then I asked them and then they didn't do it, and then I gave up because it was all just too stressful. So it's knowing that I've got to give this at least a few weeks, but giving them the incentive to do it. And, you know, before I had children, I used to be horrified when friends would go, if you do this, you get this. And I'd be like, I'm never going to have to bribe my children. They're going to just understand what they need to do. And like, we're all good. And then you have children and realize that as part of, just as human beings, you know, in the same way with ourselves, as I was saying earlier, if I do this, then I'll get to go and take the dog for a walk or whatever else. It just helps us, our brain, have that positive reinforcement. And we all like that feeling of having done something and getting something in return for it. So yeah, the more you can build that in, even if it's like not an activity kind of during the day reset, but an end of day reset. And then it's, you know, the lady actually was in that playroom, I was speaking to her recently, and we were talking about just this thing, and she said when we started doing it, one of her daughters, who was, I think she was 6 at the time, turned around and said to her little sister that was like 4.5, no, come on, because then we do this and then mummy will do an extra story and we get more bath time. And she was like, that was like at the 2.5-3 week mark where they suddenly clicked, when we do this, we actually get more bath time rather than it just being a quick bath and in and out. It was like, okay, we've been doing this. And so the more you can build that into their routine, yes, there's going to be days where you're laid back or they're tired or they really won't do it. But the more it becomes more consistent than not, the more it will help you all. So
yeah, no, it's really helpful. Thank you.
Fabulous. Well, I'll shut up. What I would say is, if anybody, obviously asking questions in this forum or people that are watching this back, if anybody wants any help with any of this or just wants to talk through a particular challenge, I do a free initial call, so there's no obligation for anything else. I just like talking about this stuff and helping people kind of feel happier in their homes. And get in touch. I'll put my contact details in the chat so that it's saved once this is done. But yeah, if you want to talk through any more, then get in touch and we can help you feel at home.
Thank you, Louise.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows I talk about this a lot, but she is amazing at what you do, and it is actually really quite transformational. So yeah, I'm always very, very grateful for everything you did for me. Another thing to add that people might not have heard already, that I don't know how many of you know Esme, who runs the clothes swaps. She's quite recently started it, but I've been to 2 of them now, and it's such a good idea. And I know she's got one coming up in, I think it's in 2 weeks, at a canteen in town, and she's got various other ones. I think she's going to come into the village too, actually. But so you pay £6, or roughly £8, forgotten, bring 10 clothes, and you can take as many, and you can take 10 home if you want, but you haven't got to. But it's just a really good way of working out what you're attached to and not attached to. And I actually got rid of 75% of my clothes last year. And I was like, I don't think I can do clothes swaps. I haven't got enough clothes to swap. But it's amazing when you actually go through, about what Louise said about what do I actually, what was your phrase, Louise? I've forgotten. What do I want to keep? That's it.
Yeah.
You realise how many clothes you don't really want to keep, don't really do make you feel good. So having I just feel like having less of everything means you enjoy everything a lot more.
And you notice the things that you're keeping because, well, I should keep that because my husband bought me that for a birthday present. Or, I was doing a wardrobe review with a lady last week, and she said, so what do I do about these things here? And she had them completely at the opposite end of the rail, and there were 4 or 5 brand new things still with tags on. She said, but what do I do with these? And I was like, so talk to me about what are these? And she went, my husband bought them because he thought I might like them as a change to what I normally wear. And the rest of her wardrobe was quite floral, colourful kind of stuff, and this was dark leopard print and kind of, and she said, but I couldn't tell him that I hated them, and I can't take them back to the shop because, so they stay in my wardrobe, but they've still got the labels on, and my husband tells me I've got too many clothes and I need to go through my wardrobe. So it's so the first thing is we're going to let them go. It's too late to return them now. They've been in there over a year. Your husband's given you the permission because he's told you you've got too many clothes and you're taking over the bedroom. Her husband literally didn't have any space in the wardrobe. He had some of his stuff in the spare room. And we're going to donate them. And how does that feel? And she's like, well, it feels fantastic to me. But what if, the reason I haven't done it is because what if he gets upset? But it's actually he gave you that as a gift because he wanted to make you happy. If he knew that it was making you unhappy and they're just sitting in your wardrobe, how do you think that would make him feel? And that's often the thing, whether it's ornaments or clothes or gifts from people will hold on to it because they think that they should, because somebody's given it to them as a gift, and that's rude, or they might be upset. But actually, if somebody cares about you enough to give you a gift, they want you to be happy. They don't want to give you something that's going to make you feel uncomfortable in some way. And once she was like, oh yeah, and then actually she texted me afterwards, said to my husband that they weren't really my thing, and he said, well, why haven't you got rid of them before? And she'd been holding on to them for a year going, I don't want to upset my husband. And he was just completely well, you should have just said near at the time and you could have returned them, or why haven't you just taken them to the charity beforehand? So actually for her, she's like, I feel really good because they went to the local women's refuge collection. So she's like, I feel really good that not only have I got rid of them, but I've been able to help somebody else. So that's often what I do with clients, of finding the things that we do kind of get rid of finding that route of where they're going to go, because pretty much I don't think anything goes to the tip when I work with people, no matter whether you look at it and think, well, that just needs to go to the tip. There's always routes that we can find for things to be passed on, or places like the clothes swaps. There's always charity collections. And if a group that I'm always sharing, because it's just brilliant for getting rid of your stuff that you really think nobody will ever want, is there's a group called Eco Essex on Facebook, and they have a rehoming Facebook group. So there's things in there that are like watering cans with holes in that have rusted, and people go, don't really know, I don't want this to go to the tip. And then people that are much more creative than me have made them into beautiful planters and decorated them, and shared the before and after pictures of, people have put fabric in there that are just like tail ends of fabric of where they've made stuff or done stuff with the kids, and people have used it to make party garlands and felt garlands for parties and things like that. So it's a really good group that if you want to just get rid of stuff that you really just think, well, it really should go to the tip, I can guarantee you that somebody in that group would be able to reuse it. So and that helps with letting go, because in the same way that Kerry was talking about not letting go of stuff because of money that you've spent, it's also that, but we hardly use this, or it's broken, or we should have made better use of this. Well, actually somebody else can do that. You don't have to hold on to it out of that guilt. So I'll pop I'll find the link. I'll pop it into the Facebook group. I'll share it that way. It's probably the easiest way for the eco group, Vicky, because it's called Eco Essex, but it's got like a long name of rehome, repurpose, and something else in it. But I'll share it into the Facebook group so that everybody's got it there, because I'll have to look it up on Facebook to put it in. But she's got lots of different, Sam, who runs Eco Essex, so they, for Kerry, for home educating, and people, you know, like Vicky, that do educational stuff as well. They have a Eco Essex education section, they have a business section. So she's got loads of stuff going on there just about how to bring that element in more to different aspects of our lives. So she's another amazing woman that seems to juggle far too many things, and she home educates her 3 children as well, Kerry. So yeah. Sam Pittman. She's based in kind of Rochford near Southend, but yeah, so she helps run all of these groups, but she lives Eco Essex to every value of her life. So they've just launched, they're doing like an eco party initiative about having like party kits that in your areas, so that you can have kind of reusable party decorations and things like that, rather than just buying disposable things. So yeah, definitely worth a look. I'll post her group in there, but the rehoming one as well.
Thank you. It sounds like a really good group to join, but also a dangerous one, because I'll start rehoming other people's stuff. I'm like, oh, that material's lovely.
Yeah, you have to kind of go in there, and I'm only getting rid of stuff. Like, yeah, that's going to be another project that I might do one day. No, not allowed.
Yeah, I'm a bit creative, so I love like amalgamating things just in case.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll stop talking too. Thank you. It was wonderful. Surprise. Bethan's doing a relaxation tonight. She mentioned to me at the oh my goodness, where were we? The brunch, my brain patch. She'd like to do something. I was like, of course. And that goes for anybody. Anyone wants to do any, like we're a village, guys. Like, it's not supposed to be about me. So if anyone ever wants to do anything, like at any point, just say. So over to you, Bethan.
Good evening. Loved that session, by the way, Louise. My brain is just so full of things that I want to do in the house now, that I've been sat here scribbling a little to-do list in an attempt to kind of organise my thoughts, so I don't do my normal and just go like full into it. Let me just get it up 1 second. I've just done it's a really short sort of gratitude relaxation, because when I start thinking about my to-do list, if it's too late at night, I can get a little bit worked up and a little bit anxious. So I thought it might, a little bit of a gratitude relaxation kind of to sort of ease some of that off might be nice. I'm gonna play some music on my end just because I normally like it, but if I just play a couple of seconds, will you tell me if it doesn't sound good through the speakers, I'll just turn it off. Is that okay? Sorry, 1 second. Someone's hijacked my Spotify. Okay. Can that be heard by anybody? And does it sound okay?
It does sound okay, but what sometimes happens is it fades in and out when your voice comes in and out, but that doesn't bother me. I'm sure it doesn't matter. But
okay. I'll leave it going for now then. Okay. If you want to turn your cameras off or anything like that, then please feel free. I always feel a bit funny if I think people are watching me if I'm trying to chill. So no worries either way. Okay, and just find yourself a comfortable position anywhere that you can just sort of breathe out and relax and don't feel like you've got to hold yourself up too much. Keeping your eyes open this time, focus on a spot in front of you and just soften your gaze. Breathe in slowly and deeply, feeling how the air is cooler as it breathes in and warmer as you breathe out. Take another breath, this time feeling how your stomach expands before your chest, filling your lungs with oxygen. Stay with each breath as it moves in and out, and appreciate your body and how hard it's working for you. If you haven't already, allow your eyes to close if this is more comfortable for you. Just take a moment here to check in with your body and notice how you feel in this moment. However you feel is absolutely fine. Just notice any emotions the evening has brought up, noting them, accepting them, and releasing them back into the universe. As you notice your next breath in, also notice a warm sensation of gratitude arising in your heart. This warmth feels like sun rays spreading slowly out from your heart center across every part of your body. Let this soft, warm gratitude fill your whole torso, flooding down into your legs and your arms, and spreading up your neck and into your head. Take a moment here and bring to mind something from today that you feel grateful for. This could be a person, a relationship, or even something as simple as how your garden smells after the rain. Starting at your feet, send loving appreciation down your body and up through your body, sending love and gratitude for everything that every part of you does for yourself on a daily basis. And let this love and this gratitude expand out from your body to envelop everybody in your life that you wish to spread joy and love towards. Rest for as long as you'd like to in appreciation of this precious moment and this moment of relaxation. Noting your breaths and exhaling any tension from the day. Gradually start to become aware of your surroundings. Note any noises, any sensations, any smells as they bring you back up towards the surface and into the room. Start by wriggling your toes and your fingers and feeling movement and awareness spread back through up your arms, into your body. As you open your eyes and take a deep breath.